After 2 decades of loyalty, love, and living under one roof, Sarah Ferguson has finally reached her breaking point. The illusion of the happiest divorced couple is over. Tears have been shed, doors are closing, and Royal Lodge is no longer home. This is the end of Team York. The illusion of the perfect divorce shattered. For nearly 20 years, Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew sold the world a fantasy. They weren't just exes, they were the happiest divorced couple in the royal family. Living together inside Royal Lodge since 2004, they presented themselves as modern, evolved co-parents who had found peace after marriage. Media interviews, smiling photos with Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, and warm anecdotes made their situation seem ideal. But behind those closed mansion doors, the cracks were real and growing wider with each passing year. The public didn't see the emotional strain, the discomfort, or the unspoken tension. Fergie, always the loyal defender, stood firm beside Andrew during years of scandals, including the darkest one involving Jeffrey Epstein. She believed loyalty would protect them both, that her devotion would win public forgiveness. But it didn't. According to insiders at Windsor, Sarah's emotional wall finally broke. "She can't do it anymore," said one source. "She gave everything, and now she's just empty." As that once strong image crumbles, Sarah is no longer holding it together for the cameras. Her voice, once proud in interviews, is now silent. The illusion of a perfect post-divorce friendship has collapsed. And with the world watching, Sarah, who always tried to stay upbeat, is left facing reality. She's not just stepping away from Andrew. She's stepping out of a dream that never really belonged to her. Next, that dream home begins to feel like a cage she can't stay in anymore. Royal Lodge, the crumbling castle. For Sarah Ferguson, Royal Lodge was never just a roof over her head. It was her refuge. After her very public divorce in 1996, she endured years of financial struggle, media mockery, and royal rejection. But when she moved back into Royal Lodge with Prince Andrew in 2004, it felt like a second chance. A chance to rebuild, to belong, to raise Beatrice and Eugenie in peace. The grand 30-room Georgian mansion, tucked inside Windsor Great Park, became the backdrop for her quiet redemption. But now, that same house is where it's all falling apart. For almost 2 decades, the pair maintained a carefully controlled image, divorced but united, scandal-tested but unbreakable. They shared family dinners, hosted guests, even walked together at royal events. But lately, insiders say Royal Lodge has turned cold, not just physically but emotionally. It's a place of silence now, one close source shared. They live under the same roof, but it's like they're strangers. The pressure from King Charles III has only intensified the situation. Since becoming monarch, he's been clear about wanting to streamline the monarchy, cut costs, and reduce roles for non-working royals. That puts Andrew, and by extension Sarah, directly in the firing line. His ties to the Jeffrey Epstein scandal have made the situation toxic, and maintaining a sprawling royal estate for someone with no public duties is becoming indefensible. Though Andrew has a 75-year lease, palace officials have reportedly begun pressuring him to vacate the property. And for Sarah, that's the final blow. "She poured her life into that house," said another insider. "It was her safety net, her pride." Losing it means losing everything she thought she had left. Sarah is reportedly already emotionally detaching, quietly preparing for the move. The photos have come down, the staff has been reduced, One by one, the things that made Royal Lodge feel like home are disappearing. It's no longer a place of comfort. It's a reminder of what's been lost. And next, the toll of loyalty begins to show in the most personal, painful ways. Fergie's breaking point. For years, Sarah Ferguson stood by Prince Andrew through every twist of scandal, loyal to a fault. She defended him when the public turned away, when charities walked out, and when headlines screamed his name in disgrace. She called him her best friend and kept up appearances like nothing had changed. But everything had. It wasn't just one scandal. It was the endless storm. The Jeffrey Epstein connection, the civil lawsuit, the hush money settlement. Each wave chipped away at Sarah's carefully rebuilt image. And the final blow came when emails surfaced earlier this year, showing Andrew was still in touch with Epstein long after he denied it. This time, Sarah couldn't escape the backlash. Old interviews where she praised Epstein as a kind man were dug up. Brands dropped her. Charity invites vanished. Even royal sympathizers looked the other way. One insider said, "She's never been this low." It's not just public. This one cut deep. Privately, she broke. Reports say Sarah has been crying in silence, overwhelmed by the weight of years spent protecting someone who never protected her back. Her support didn't earn her dignity. It cost her everything. Friends say she's now exhausted, humiliated, and completely isolated. She's not just walking away from a house or a title. She's walking away from the idea that love or loyalty could save her. For the first time, she's considering a full break from the lodge, from the role, and from Andrew. And what triggered this collapse? That takes us right to the root of it all. The Epstein scandal that refuses to die.
The Epstein fallout. Sarah's final undoing.
Sarah's connection to Jeffrey Epstein didn't start with Andrew. It started with her own choices. Back in 2010, she accepted £15,000 from Epstein to pay off debts. At the time, she called it a mistake. But now, it's a mistake that's come back with a vengeance. As Andrew's involvement spiraled into disaster, Sarah's name got pulled in deeper. The public remembered. The press exposed every link. And then, when Andrew's old emails to Epstein leaked earlier this year, saying, "We're in this together," everything exploded. Suddenly, it wasn't just his scandal anymore. Sarah's name was dragged through it too. Companies that had quietly supported her started pulling away. Her book promotions stalled. Her social media pages went silent. "She tried to stay out of it," said a former advisor. But there's no separating from it now. The reputation she had spent 2 decades rebuilding, through wellness campaigns, children's books, and charity appearances, was undone almost overnight. For a woman once mocked in tabloids and then slowly embraced again, this latest downfall is unbearable. Those close to her say she feels like it's all been wasted. But inside Royal Lodge, the damage wasn't just external. It fractured the foundation of everything they'd built as a unit. And that leads to what's collapsing next: the fragile shell of the York household itself. The unraveling of the York household. Behind the gates of Royal Lodge, it's no longer a home. It's a cold, silent shell. What was once portrayed as a peaceful, unconventional family setup between Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew has reportedly deteriorated into something distant and bleak. Sources close to the household describe the atmosphere as tense, joyless, and completely detached. They're not fighting. They're not even speaking much at all. Separate routines, separate rooms, separate lives. "They're like polite strangers," said one former staff member. "Even family celebrations, once the heart of the Yorks' closeness, now feel uncomfortable." Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, their once biggest supporters, have pulled back. While still loyal daughters, they're grown women now, with their own families and careers. Royal insiders say both are keeping a respectful distance to avoid being dragged down with their parents. What's more, their support is no longer unconditional. They've built lives outside the royal bubble. Beatrice in tech and business, Eugenie in art and charity work. Their reputations matter, and Andrew's scandals are no longer just history. They're a shadow that keeps following. Sarah, too, is increasingly alone in her corner of the house. She tried to keep the family unit together, even after divorce, even after disgrace. But now, there's nothing left to glue it. "It's not a partnership anymore," an insider said bluntly. "It's survival." And survival, for Sarah, means finding somewhere new to land. Even if it means asking for something the palace didn't expect. Sarah's desperate bid for a new royal home. In a move that stunned royal staff, Prince Andrew made a bold request. He wanted 2 separate royal homes, one for himself and another for Sarah Ferguson. His plan? He would downsize to Frogmore Cottage, recently vacated by Harry and Meghan. And Sarah? He suggested she take over Adelaide Cottage, the modest but stylish royal home currently used by Prince William and Princess Catherine. The request was met with shock and disbelief. "Completely tone-deaf," one palace aide commented. "Sarah is a private citizen with no royal role, and under normal rules, has no right to live on Crown Estate property." The proposal wasn't just unrealistic. It was insulting to those who have worked hard for their place in the royal system. Still, sources close to Sarah say this move wasn't about luxury. It was about fear. "She's terrified of having nowhere to go," said a royal commentator. Losing Royal Lodge would mean losing her stability, her lifestyle, and what little she had left of her royal safety net. The palace, however, has made its position clear. There will be no special treatment, no crown-funded bailouts. One senior official said, "It's not the monarchy's job to house Miss Ferguson." Sarah's request may have been desperate, but it revealed the truth. She's afraid of being left behind, without title, home, or support. And what's coming next might be even harder to face. The real financial consequences of this royal split. Financial reality hits hard. For Sarah Ferguson, the royal lifestyle always looked accessible. But in truth, it was never hers to claim. She wore the title Duchess of York, attended royal events, lived in royal residences, and moved in powerful circles. But she was never on the royal payroll. Every privilege came through Prince Andrew, and now, with her time at Royal Lodge coming to a clear end, so too does the illusion of stability. The harsh truth is that Sarah can no longer afford the life she's been living. Her financial history is riddled with mistakes and near disasters. She's faced multiple bankruptcy threats, been chased by creditors for hundreds of thousands of pounds, and made questionable financial decisions over the years. At one point, she even accepted £15,000 from Jeffrey Epstein, a move she would later call a regret, but one that continues to haunt her reputation. Living under Andrew's roof for the last 2 decades shielded her from financial consequences. She didn't pay rent, didn't have to cover major expenses, and remained under the protective umbrella of Crown security and services. That arrangement, unofficial as it was, acted like a lifeline. But now that lifeline is being cut, and fast. Her income streams have collapsed. Once invited to speak at global events, she now finds herself unwelcome in many circles. Her endorsement deals have been withdrawn. Her children's books, once a modest success, are no longer profitable. Charities that once embraced her for her openness and energy have now quietly distanced themselves. One former associate put it bluntly, "There's no money coming in, but plenty still going out." And there's no sign of that changing anytime soon. Sarah's efforts to reinvent herself in the wellness and self-help space, including podcasts, documentaries, and lifestyle branding, have largely failed to gain traction, especially in light of the renewed scrutiny around her past. Worse still, she has no fallback plan, no regular job, no royal support, no guaranteed housing once she's out of Royal Lodge. She's now in her early 60s, staring at the kind of restart most people dread. A close friend shared, she's terrified, really terrified, of starting over at this stage in life. Everything she knew is ending, and the clock is ticking. Once the move-out date arrives, Sarah will no longer be protected by the walls of Windsor or the legacy of her title. Without Andrew, she is truly on her own. But as Sarah faces fear and uncertainty, Andrew is entering a far more devastating stage of downfall, complete royal exile with nothing left to hide behind, not even her. Andrew's fall from grace, no more safety net. Prince Andrew was once one of the most visible and celebrated faces of the royal family. A decorated Royal Navy officer, a globe-trotting trade envoy, and the Queen's second son, he enjoyed decades of public admiration and palace privilege. But today, all of that has vanished. His fall from grace is no longer a slow decline. It's a sudden, sharp, and humiliating crash. In the span of just a few years, he has lost everything that once defined him. His military honors have been revoked. His royal patronages, once numbering over 200, have been dissolved. And his public identity as His Royal Highness has been stripped away. He no longer carries the title Duke of York. From now on, he is just Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, a private citizen with a tainted legacy. His £3 to £5 million settlement to Virginia Giuffre in 2022 marked the beginning of his financial unraveling. The payment, designed to silence a devastating lawsuit without admitting guilt, came at a steep cost. He reportedly sold his luxury Swiss chalet in Verbier and relied on private funds from Queen Elizabeth II to cover the deal. Since then, his financial life has crumbled. He holds no professional qualifications, no steady income, and has not worked in any royal or public role since 2019, when the Epstein scandal exploded. Royal sources confirm there are no plans for Andrew to ever return to public duties. In the eyes of the institution, his career is permanently over. For years, he managed to live comfortably off inherited wealth and palace protection. But under King Charles III, the tone has changed. The new monarch is focused on slimming down the monarchy and cutting off non-working royals from luxury. Andrew's lavish lifestyle, private staff, expansive grounds, taxpayer-funded security is no longer acceptable. His next address? Most likely Frogmore Cottage, the modest royal residence once assigned to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. While still within the Windsor estate, Frogmore is a stark downgrade from the 30-room Royal Lodge he called home for nearly 2 decades. The property is smaller, more exposed, and comes with fewer privileges. One royal insider remarked, "He's moving into a house that's been passed around like royal leftovers." There will be no private chefs, no event invitations, and no ceremonial appearances. He'll be alone, in a house the family no longer wants, with no role left to play. A royal commentator said bluntly. His isolation is not symbolic. It's real. But perhaps the most painful blow is not the loss of property or title. It's the loss of the one person who stood by him when no one else did. Sarah Ferguson. For years, she defended him, lived with him, and kept their public image intact. Now, even Fergie is stepping away. And that leads directly to the unraveling of the only thing Andrew had left. The illusion of a team, a family unit, a shared front. Because next, Team York ends for good. The symbolic end of Team York. For years, Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew held on to something rare in royal circles. A post-divorce alliance they proudly called Team York. Even after their 1996 divorce, they chose to raise their daughters together, share the same home, and present a united front in public. From royal weddings to family holidays at Balmoral, they often arrived side by side. It was unusual, even criticized by some within palace walls, but to the public, it gave off a strange kind of charm. Two people who couldn't make marriage work, but somehow made friendship last. Royal Lodge, their home since 2004, was more than a residence. It became the very heart of their joint identity. The sprawling 30-room mansion represented resilience, loyalty, and a refusal to conform to the typical royal playbook. It was the stage for their carefully curated narrative, a family still together, just redefined. They loved calling themselves the happiest divorced couple, a former staffer recalled. It was their thing, their shield. But now, that shield has cracked beyond repair. With public disgrace mounting around Andrew and eviction from Royal Lodge now imminent, the foundation of Team York is collapsing. The illusion that love, friendship, and royal status could somehow exist in harmony is gone. The smiles that once charmed the public feel forced. The tradition they leaned on now looks like an excuse to avoid facing reality. It wasn't unity, it was denial, one palace insider revealed. And that sentiment has only grown louder. Royal commentators say the entire arrangement now seems more like emotional dependence than mutual respect. What once looked like loyalty now looks like codependence, said a leading royal analyst. Meanwhile, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie have quietly stepped away. They are building their own lives, Beatrice in technology and finance, Eugenie in art and philanthropy. Both women are focused on their children, their careers, and protecting their personal reputations. Their support for their parents remains, but it is more discreet, more cautious. What's left of Team York? Just a shared past, heavy with scandal and fading relevance. Their final connection, living together at Royal Lodge, is now being severed. And once those doors close behind them, so does the chapter that kept them tied together for nearly 3 decades. They're no longer partners in any real sense, just two individuals in their 60s, carrying the weight of decisions made long ago, now forced to face the world separately, without status and without a plan. And for Sarah, whose entire adult life was shaped by royal association, the next step will be the hardest. Learning how to stand alone without the monarchy, without Andrew, and without the familiar walls that once gave her identity, comfort, and a false sense of belonging. What's next for Sarah? The uncertain road ahead. With no title, no official role, and no home at Royal Lodge, Sarah Ferguson is facing a future that looks nothing like the life she once knew. The woman who proudly held the title the Duchess of York for nearly 4 decades is now simply Ms. Sarah Ferguson, a private citizen stripped of royal status and suddenly very alone. Her options are limited, and the uncertainty is weighing heavily. She has no confirmed residence lined up. Some close to her suggest she may leave the UK entirely, possibly relocating to France or Switzerland, where she's previously spent time and where the press coverage is less aggressive. Others believe she might try to settle near one of her daughters, Princess Beatrice or Princess Eugenie, who now have young families of their own. But here's the harsh truth. All of those options require financial independence, and Sarah doesn't have that, not yet. Her past is littered with financial troubles, from unpaid debts and bankruptcy warnings to relying on controversial figures like Jeffrey Epstein for help. She's lost most of her commercial endorsements, and speaking events have dried up in the wake of renewed scandals. What little money she has left may not be enough to support the lifestyle she once enjoyed. The palace's stance on her situation is crystal clear. No more handouts, no royal housing, no special treatment. Her request to remain within the royal estate, perhaps in Adelaide Cottage, was denied without ceremony. A royal aide told the press bluntly, "Miss Ferguson is no longer the monarchy's responsibility." That sentence stings, not just for its coldness, but for its finality. Friends close to her say she still talks about starting fresh, about finding true independence for the first time in her life. She's said to be exploring writing opportunities, possibly a memoir that tells her side of the story. And there's talk of a potential move into digital media, a podcast, a video series, maybe even public speaking again. But rebuilding won't be easy. Her name is tied too tightly to scandal, and the royal brand that once gave her power now does more harm than good. As movers and estate staff begin clearing Royal Lodge, those closest to her have noticed the emotional toll. She's been seen crying quietly, avoiding attention. One longtime friend said, "It's not just about packing up furniture. She's packing up a lifetime." Another added, "She's saying goodbye to more than just a home. She's saying goodbye to who she used to be." The end of this chapter isn't dramatic. It's quiet and painful. No grand farewell, no royal send-off. Just boxes, memories, and a heavy silence. And so, the story of the happiest divorced couple ends not in harmony, but in separation and silence. Two people who once defied royal norms now drifting apart, alone with their consequences. Sarah's next steps remain uncertain, but one thing is clear. She is no longer protected by the palace. And for the first time in decades, she must now write her next chapter entirely on her own. The fairy tale they sold for years has shattered. As Sarah walks away, she leaves behind not just Prince Andrew, but the last piece of her royal identity. No more titles, no more illusions, just silence, distance, and two separate futures. The happiest divorced couple is now history, forever divided.